What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and welcome to another episode of our First Down Training show. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that I'm extremely passionate about, and that is how you guys should pick a personal trainer, a private coach, a 7-on-7 team, anybody that you're going to invest your time and money into to help your athletic game develop. I think there's some things that you have to look out for, some scams that you have to look out for, so that's what we're going to discuss today. And then we're going to get into some questions that you guys left on a previous episode of this show. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get started. So let's get right into it, fellas. I am by no means saying like, hey, don't train with these people, just train with me, because obviously I train athletes, I run a training camp, and I want to be able to help all you guys, and I want all you guys to be able to train with me, but like, I'm realistic. Like, I know all of you aren't going to train with me, and some of you guys have private coaches or are thinking about going to train with private coaches or play on 7-on-7 teams in the off season. I'm just trying to help you guys out as always, save you guys some time, save you guys some money, and save you guys some frustration. So the first thing that I want you to understand when picking a private coach, personal trainer, whatever, is look for if they can explain the reason why. That's how you can determine the difference between a good coach and a bad coach. That's what I always try to pride myself on when I'm working with athletes. I love athletes that I end up training that don't necessarily know our social media, that don't necessarily know me from Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube, because it's an opportunity for me to like kind of check myself. Like, hey, am I being a good coach in this situation? Because this athlete's not going to buy into what I'm saying, because I didn't play at like a major D1 program or in the NFL or pro ball. I just played like small college ball, right? So I have to be a really, really good coach and show them results for them to buy into what I'm saying. And no matter what level that you play at, if you're an ex-NFL player, ex-Division I player, if you can't explain the reason why behind certain things, I'm a firm believer that you need to get back into the classroom, you need to understand certain things, and you shouldn't be training in the first place. So that's the first thing that I would look out for. So what's an example of that, right? So if a QB coach is saying like, let's use a simple example. Hey, hold the ball up by your ear. Hey, coach, like with all due respect, like, yeah, I'll try it, I'll work on it, but like, why? Like, I see so many other NFL quarterbacks holding the ball down here, holding the ball up like this. Why do I need to hold it up by my ear? Like, kind of quiz them on that type of stuff. Now, that's a simple one, right? But there are a lot of other things and a lot of other, like, kind of out there methods that certain coaches will teach. And if you're confused on it, ask them. And if they can't give you a good justification of why you're doing something, like another one that I love with receiver coaches, you'll see receiver coaches do these big obstacle course drills, like a million cones, like do this here, then come over here, then break down, then here, there, then I'm going to give you a catch. It's like, coach, why am I doing that many movements in a row? Like, will I ever do that many movements in a row on a route? Like, kind of, isn't that more so working on like slow twitch movements? Isn't it kind of like conditioning? I thought receivers, it's like kind of one cut, go. Like, you know, if they can't explain the reason why behind certain things, I wouldn't train with them, no matter what level that they have played at, no matter what their background is. Now, I'm not saying to give them not give them a chance, right? Should give everybody a chance, right? If you feel like you like a guy, feel like you can develop with them, but at the end of the day, you're spending your hard-earned money with these people and your time. And if you feel like they can't explain the reason why and you're just doing stuff to do it, I would probably avoid that. So that kind of brings me into my second point. Just because they played at a super high level doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're a great coach. Sometimes if you could find that happy medium where like the dude played pro ball and he's excellent at explaining things and he's excellent at development, that's a freaking great guy that you can train with, and that's a guy that I recommend all of you to go train with. But I see a lot of people, I've seen a lot of guys out in like, you know, Texas, Florida, that just purely try to just milk it off of their name, right? Like, well, I played at Alabama, listen to me. I played semi-pro, listen to me. Like, bro, like, it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a great coach. Like a perfect example is I was talking to a coach who worked the Elite 11. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of the Elite 11. It's like all these top tier, you know, like quarterback coaches try to find the 11 best quarterbacks for high school players in the entire country, right? I think it's a little bit of a publicity statement. I think it's a lot of it's based on hype, but that's just my personal opinion. Maybe I'm bitter because I wasn't in it, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I was talking to a guy and I'm like, yeah, like we were talking about the pro guys that they've had actually come out to the Elite 11 and actually, you know, coach the guys. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And he was talking about Aaron Rodgers. And I'm like, oh, I bet that was I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers guy. Like, I think he's the best thrower of the football ever. Like, I'm like, oh, did he talk to the guys about mechanics? Did he talk to them about this? Whatever. I'm trying to pick his brain. And they're like, you know, honestly, man, like he was probably the worst, like, camp counselor we've ever had. And I'm like, really? Why? Like, you would think Aaron Rodgers would be one of the best guys to have. And you know, regardless of your opinion on Aaron Rodgers, some people think he's a little bit of an a-hole because, you know, maybe he comes off like that, and I get that, I understand. But they were like, listen, he is so good that he can't even like explain what he does. And that is a lot of guys. Like, you'd be surprised. Like, there are certain dudes that played like really high Division I level ball that I've worked with. They've come out to our camps, they've worked with athletes at our camps, but they just simply can't can't explain how to get to the point that they've got to. Maybe because they've just been insanely blessed with crazy athleticism and crazy ability, they were just naturally that good. And so like those are the coaches that are like, hey man, catch the ball. Like, hey man, run that a little better. Hey man, cut a little bit lower. Like those types of things that they say to athletes, like it may be correct, but like, can you teach me how to get there? Can you take me from point A to point B and give me a set, like, you know, I guess you could say like workout schedule or workout regimen to get to that point B. A lot of guys can't do that because they were just so naturally gifted. So I would just be careful. Like, listen, I think credibility plays a role. I'm not saying go train with some Joe Blow off the street who never played football before and like and maybe he's really good at explaining something, but like maybe it's the wrong thing that he's explaining. So there is an element of credibility that goes into it, but don't make credibility everything. I'm not saying to train with somebody who's just not credible at all, but he's really good at explaining and talking. That's a salesman in my opinion. I'm saying like, okay, like listen, like if it's a guy who didn't play at a major level, don't discredit him. If he's really, really good, he's worked with a lot of athletes who are really, really good. He's gotten them to the next level. That should hold more weight. That should carry more weight for you than somebody who themselves played at a really high level, but they can't explain why they got there. So I hope you guys kind of pick up what I'm putting down there. Like, I don't want it to be just like purely based on just explaining things. There's also an element of credibility. But now this brings me into my third point. Don't just train with a guy because he claims that he has trained some top athlete. So that's something that you have to be careful for and something that you have to watch out for. We talked about this on an episode that we did yesterday. We were talking about these different training academies that would essentially train athletes for free just so they could use them as marketing material or marketing promotion. So I'm in Southern California. That's where I live. That's where I train athletes, right? Yes, we travel across the country, but this is my home base, right? And this is where I started working with a lot of guys from, you know, when I was a young trainer, I really wanted to take kids when they were like 11, 12 years old and mold them into a dude who was a scholarship guy when he got to his senior year of high school. Like that was always my goal. And I've done that with a lot of athletes, right? Now you see a lot of other competitors in this market because Southern California, we have good weather all the time. So there are a lot of quarterback coaches that live here because they could train outside all the time, right? It's not like the East Coast where it's freaking 10 degrees and you got to find an indoor facility that costs $85,000. You know what I mean? So a lot of these guys will work with an athlete one time, maybe twice, maybe a few times, right? All over their social media. I train with this guy, I train with that guy, I train with this guy. And what they're doing is they're using that kid's credibility, the hard work that that kid's put in maybe elsewhere, maybe on his own as, hey, I made him the way he is, come train with me. And I hate that. I freaking hate that so much. It's something that really bothers me because it's like, no, you didn't, bro. Like if I'm a parent and I have a quarterback who's, let's say, 6th grade and I want him to get training from somebody, I don't want a dude who's only working with a guy after he got good. I want to go with a dude who's taken a kid who was not very good and molded him into something because that shows that that guy knows how to develop a quarterback from the ground up. And that's what I want my son to be. And that's just me. And listen, if some people want to go based off of a name and who they've worked with once or twice, okay, cool, fine. No worries. That's totally fine. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you my perspective on it, right? So I would much rather have you work with somebody who knows how to mold somebody into somebody elite rather than somebody who already got somebody who's elite and just takes credit for it. A good example is Bryce Young, okay? I loved his Heisman acceptance speech. Simply because there's a coach down here, and I'm not going to name any names in this, by the way. Some of you may know who I'm talking about. But there's a coach who worked with Bryce when he was like a freshman in high school, maybe 8th grade, whatever, a few times. You know, maybe extensively, right? And he's on social media taking credit for this dude like he's his big brother. Like, this is my guy. Look at me when I was with him when he was an 8th grader, like, you know, yada, yada. And some people who I even came across were like, well, yeah, he trained Bryce Young. And Bryce Young's acceptance speech for his Heisman, he thanked his actual quarterback coach, who is a really good quarterback coach. I love these people who do training because I think they do it the right way. And he thanked those people publicly and was like, these are the guys that made me the way I am. I love that because all the people, because this quarterback coach in like, I think it's like LA County area is not the only one that's done that. There have been a lot of people who tried to take credit for Bryce Young's success. And he thanked the people who actually had a real handle in that. And the people who had a real handle in that were never the people who were like, this is my guy, I've trained him since this, I've done this. They just trained him and they just developed him. And I freaking love that. So you need to be careful of that type of stuff when you're deciding what type of coach you want to work with, what type of person that you want to spend your hard-earned money with and spend your time with. That's what I recommend when picking a trainer. Those 3 things that I just listed. Now, let's talk about 7-on-7. So When it comes to a 7-on-7 team, 7-on-7's here to stay, obviously. Like, a lot of you guys might think that I hate 7-on-7 because of the videos that I've made in the past, if you've watched those, but I don't. I think 7-on-7 is great if it's done the right way, right? I just think a lot of people think 7-on-7 is the same thing as training, and it's not. So this is something I learned in a sports medicine class when we were specifically talking about developing athletes, right? There's two types of ways to develop an athlete, and you do need both, and 7-on-7 gives you one of these, right? But you have block training, and then you have random training, which is essentially like reaction-based, right? So block training is working on a specific skill that develops muscle memory that will help you in the random training reaction type scenarios. So let's use a quarterback, because I think everybody can understand this. Let's say you're a QB who has a really long throwing motion, right? How you're going to fix that is not by playing 7-on-7. It's not. Just fact of the matter what it is. It's going to take thousands of reps of you working a shortened motion, shortened motion, shortened motion. So when you get into a setting that's a live game scenario, you instinctively, muscle memory wise, your release is a little bit shorter because you can't think about those types of things when you're in a live game setting. So I think a lot of athletes go wrong because they're like, well, I'm just going to play 7-on-7 this offseason. That may not be the best course of action for you. I think you should do both, but it's a balancing act that you have to figure out. So the athletes that I think have the most success that I work with are athletes that train with me, right? Like maybe a couple times a week, even sometimes once a week, and we're working on skills, and on their own time, they work on those skills, they work on the details. And then they play 7-on-7 a little bit later on in the spring. So from like November to maybe March, they're training. From March all the way till like June, they're playing 7-on-7. And then from June all the way to August, they're back training to figure out some of the things that may have went wrong in their off-season 7-on-7. 7-on-7 is not going to be the thing that gets you better at certain aspects of your game that maybe you need to improve on. Now, what I will say is if you can find a 7-on-7 team, and there's not many like this, but if you can find a 7-on-7 team that actually works on development, that's like, hey, we're going to focus on these skills, and they have dedicated trainers, dedicated coaches, and you're repping out certain things, and then they also add on an element of, practicing plays and working on reaction type stuff, that random training. Fantastic. That's a great option for you in the off season, I think. But just don't be bamboozled by the 7-on-7 is the only thing that I need to do, because it's not. There are a lot of other things that you need to work on that require block training, reps in a row of a specific skill to get you better for the random training environments, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to get you ready for 11-on-11 football, so you need to make sure that you're doing things that will translate to that. Okay, so that's all I'm going to really say, you guys, but I hope that makes sense, and I hope that helps, okay? So now we're going to get into some questions, fellas, that you guys left on a previous episode of the show. But before we do that, if you are a QB or wide receiver watching this video and you would like to train with myself and my staff of coaches, we travel out to 15 different cities across the country for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So guys, if you want some information on how you could sign up, go to that very first link in the description below. That's where you can find all the info. So our camps, they're 2 days long, right? It's 4 hours each day, and we limit spots for these camps. We don't take everybody. We could probably get 300 or 400 kids out to every single camp, no problem. But we don't do that simply because we want to work with you on an individual level. And if we have 1 million people there, we can't do that. You guys, it's just going to be, okay, let's go as fast as we can, 2 days, okay, see you, yeah, bye, and then we leave, right? It's not what we're trying to do. We are trying to work with you. You make a mistake, we're going to correct you. We're going to give you things to do to improve that mistake, so on your own time and throughout the 2 days that you're with us, you know exactly what you need to work on as an athlete so you can rep it out and get better. That's how athletes get better, guys. That's just a fact of the matter of the situation. So we limit spots. So I give you that whole spiel right there because I want you to know that our spots are filling up and our spots will be sold out here probably 2 months ahead of time before each camp date. So guys, take advantage of the fact that we have open spots because we're soon going to have to start turning people away because our camps will sell out. So again, guys, very first link in that description below. That's where you can find all the information on the cities that we're going to and all the information on the location, all that. So again, guys, very first link in that description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our camps, okay? So now, let's get into some questions that you guys asked on a previous episode of this show. So question number 1. From John Weber 607. As we get to the end of football season, if a player has aspirations of being a starting quarterback, but has his baseball season coming up, how does one play baseball but not lose their football mechanics? So if you're trying to differentiate as a quarterback between baseball and football, you just have to think really about the front stride mechanics. I think in baseball, you have a little bit longer of a front stride, right? Because, maybe the ball doesn't weigh as much. It's a shorter, maybe type throw, so you can kind of get away with that, especially if you're a pitcher, right? As a quarterback, you need to take a very quick stride, and it's a lot more like hitting a baseball football than throwing a baseball, right? So you have to find just that like mental differentiation between the two. When you're playing football, you're thinking about hitting. When you're playing baseball or throwing a baseball, maybe you get back to your baseball mechanics. I'm not an expert in that by any means, but just think throwing a football is like hitting, and think throwing a baseball is like throwing a baseball. Okay, so hope that makes sense, man. Appreciate you asking that question. Next question here from Lazerny9655. I had 2 season outs, plus I'm working really hard at the moment for my last junior season, but I feel like I'm lost the fire or the passion for the sport, where the fun goes. Should I quit? So if you kind of feel like you lost the passion for football, you're not enjoying it, that's totally normal. I think a lot of people feel that, especially during the middle of the season, because it's a grind and football is insanely hard. You definitely shouldn't quit. I think, like burnout is maybe something that you might be experiencing a little bit, but something that always helped me is I would sit there and think, like, why did I start playing football in the first place, right? Especially if you're in high school. Like, my goal always as a football player is like, I want to get my school paid for so my parents don't have to pay for it, right? To give myself a better opportunity in the future. My goal was never like, hey, I want to go to the NFL. Like, obviously every young player wants that, but you got to be realistic at times. And I'm not trying to discredit you if that's your goal. If that's your goal, fantastic. Go run towards that. But there's a certain level of work that goes into it. But when you're feeling like you lost the passion, think about why you started. Figure out like, okay, why did I play football in the first place? This is why. And what requires that goal to be met is going through the hard stuff and battling through the hard stuff. Nobody said that it was going to be easy to achieve that specific goal. So you need to understand that the grind of the season is what you have to go through, because if you're going to get to that level, it's going to be even harder. So that's what I would recommend you do. Just think about that, and I think it'll be fine. Okay, it's totally normal what you're going through. All right, so next question, you guys, from NDE Keith 4916. Coach, I have a question. I'm a 12, 8th grade. I'm 12, 8th grade. I weigh about 120. I'm like 5'1". I want to play running back. People say I'm too small to play running back. What should I do, Coach? Should I quit or play running back? The starting running back, the high school I'm going to, is 6 foot, 200 pounds, a senior. I don't know what to do, man. So honestly, dude, if you're like undersized and you want to play running back, like let's say you're an 8th grader, you're like 5'1", 5'2", 5'3", whatever, a little bit on the shorter side of things, you could probably still play running back. Like I think the best spots on offense for undersized guys are probably running back and like slot receiver. Now running back's got to be heavier. If you're going to be undersized, you got to put on some weight. So that would be a primary goal. In the offseason, you got to make sure you're in the gym. You got to make sure you're lifting. Maybe you're taking creatine in the offseason. Something that's going to help you put on weight, because the worry is you're not going to be able to absorb hits. But if you have good size, then you'll be able to absorb those hits. Now, if you don't gain a ton of weight, maybe work on your hands and try to play slot receiver. But I definitely think it's possible. Don't think you should quit. Undersized players just have to work that much harder than the guys who are, bigger and obviously have like that God-given ability because of their size. So you just got to make sure that you're outworking those dudes and you're working on the right type of things to make your specific play type specific to your like body type, if that makes sense. So I appreciate you asking that, man. Thank you very much. Hope that was able to help. All right, you guys, that does it for this episode. But seriously, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Hope this was able to help. Like I said, pretty passionate topic for me to talk about today. And guys, you know the deal. On our YouTube channel, I answer every single comment that is left. So guys, if you have comments, questions, whatever, post it in the comment section below. We love interacting with you guys, especially on these longer form videos that we do. So again, guys, appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time.